Welcome to our chapter 10 of The Slight Edge, page number 139, written by Jeff Olson. It's a book to be practicing, and it's a very beautiful book to give us a slight edge. And let's start this chapter 10, Invest in Yourself. Frank Lloyd Wright writes, no stream rises higher than its source. Whatever man might build could never express or reflect more than he was. He could record neither more nor less than he had learned of life when the buildings were built. His philosophy, true or false, is there. The greatest gift we can give to ourselves is also the wisest business investment we could ever make. It's also the most critical step in accomplishing any challenging task, and is the one step without which all other success strategies, no matter how brilliant or time tested, are doomed to fail. What is this mysterious gift? It is your own personal development, investing in your own improvement, your own personal growth, and betterment is all these things and more. Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. In other words, he would spend twice as much time working on himself as on the task itself. What do most people do? They grab the axe, dull or not, and start wailing away at this tree. And even if they aren't making a major dent in the tree pretty soon, they quit and probably mutter something about how it's the tree's fault. How you swing the axe, how hard, in what arc, and what rhythm, on exactly what spot you hit the tree, all these are strategies that concern your actions, and they can all be measured, weighed, improved. But it starts with the axe itself, and the axe is you. Results come last. It's easy to be seduced by the promise of results. We live in a results-oriented world, a culture that overwhelmingly measures the success of a course of action by its result. Talk is cheap after all, and what is it that really matters? Results? The bottom line, show me. Proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? But there's a problem here. There's a flaw in this thinking. In fact, the flaw in this thinking is so profound. 95% of all people's efforts are ending up as failure. And what is so remarkable is that this isn't some deep, hidden, subtle flaw. It's so obvious, everyone ought to see it, but it's so deeply ingrained in our culture, nearly everyone is hypnotized into missing it. Here is the law. How can you judge the course of action you're taking by its results when its results come last? The problem with focusing on results is simply that it doesn't work. Having your attention on your results is like driving your car by looking in the rearview mirror. Your results live in the past, and like all things in the past, they belong there. What you can do with your results is learn from them. Results are valuable feedback. Let them help motivate and guide your tomorrows, but a focus on result may take you out of the present moment where the action really is. What about your actions? Many approaches to personal and professional development I have observed go deeper than results by focusing instead on your actions as a place to bring about positive change. That's a logical place to start looking, but the problem is that your actions are not the source of your success or failure. Again, that's why diets don't work. They can't. They're doomed to fail because most diets dictate what your actions should be. They don't deal with where your actions come from. The only reliable, consistent way to control your to control your actions, which control your results, is to control your thoughts. And the source of your thoughts is your philosophy. This is why the master entrepreneur W. Clement Stone uttered these often quoted words. What is the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. Your philosophy is your paradigm, your view of the way life is. It is how you say your life works or doesn't work, and determines everything about the course of actions you'll choose and keep choosing over time. Your philosophy is the foundation upon which you built your life. There is nothing more fundamental or essential. Your philosophy is a source of your failure or success. It is the garden in which your beliefs grow, and your beliefs lay the fertile groundwork for everything else. The slight edge will either promote you or expose you for who you are and what you really are, and who and what you come from your philosophy. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus spoke of two types of foundation. He spoke about the wise man, the one who built his house upon the rock, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and the burst against the house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded upon the rock. And then he told a second character, a foolish man who built his house on sand, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and burst against that house, and it fell, and it was great, and great was its fall. The foundation upon which you are building the house of your life is what will determine the nature of the house itself. Will the house stand? Will it fall apart? Will it leak? Will it withstand whatever weather nature throws at it? What results will your life produce? It's a critically important question, because by the time the results are in, the outcome will already be pretty well determined. You can't wait for your results to judge your actions. You can't wait to see what kind of house you've got before you judge whether or not it has a truly sturdy foundation. Your success will always be the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Your philosophy comes first, your results come last, and this brings us to the most important slight edge strategy of all: continuous learning. Mark Twain says, the trouble with the world is not that people know too little, but that they know so many things that aren't so. We've talked about all sorts of forces you can harness to help power your path through life. The most important force of all, the force that drives the whole process of living with a slight edge, is the power of continuous learning. When I say learning, I don't mean simply learning from school, although schooling certainly has its place. And I don't just mean learning from books or from a teacher, though you already know that I revere the knowledge to be gained from good books. And I feel the same about great teachers too. I'm not just talking here about learning from the example of others, from advice from your friends, from the school of hard knocks, or learning from your mistakes. I don't mean any one of those. I mean all of them. Once you've set foot on the path of mastery and grasped the philosophy of the slight edge, educating yourself through any and all means available is a critical process that will keep you on the path and make the slight edge work for you. I also don't mean education is a more narrowed, defined sense of learning specific skills or subjects. Naturally, you need to pursue continuous learning in order to acquire the knowledge and skills involved in mastering any subject or pursuit that will contribute to your personal and professional growth and development. But it's more than simply a matter of acquiring specific knowledge. Continuous, lifelong learning is the material from which you continually build your philosophy. And by now, you and I both know how important that is. Learning is also the material from which you build your success, your awareness, and that is also critical in mastering the slight edge. After getting out of high school, 58% of all high school graduates who don't go on to the college never, ever read a book again. When I first tried that figure, I was shocked, but not surprised. That's one reason the 95% give up and slide down the failure curve. They spend their lives building someone else's dream, not because they can't or they aren't capable of building their own, but because they never gained the knowledge they needed. Illiteracy is a much greater problem today than many people realize. Of the slightly more than 6 billion people on Earth, according to the Wycliffe Organization, 1 billion cannot read. Can you imagine that? One person out of every 1 billion people cannot read, and that rate is on the rise. But consider this. If you're one of the 58% people who never read after high school, what's the difference between you and the billion people around the world who couldn't read if they wanted to? No difference at all. Of course, simply reading won't necessarily put you on the success curve. Remember my shoeshine woman and her little pile of novels? No question about illiteracy. The woman loved to read, but where would she have been if that pile had included Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, The Millionaire Next Door, Smart Woman, Finish Rich, and any of the hundreds and thousands of other inspirational, educational, empowering books out there? Where would she have been for the previous year or two if she just read 10 pages, one chapter of those books in between customers? You know where she'd be? When was the last time you attended a seminar, took an adult education class, not because you were required to, but simply to improve yourself? When was the last time you went bowling? If your bowling average is over 200, congratulations. You're a heck of a bowler. And if you want to rethink your priorities, if you lined up 100% more successful women and men in America and calculated their bowling averages, I bet they wouldn't break 70. The average American will go bowling 233 times in his life or in his or her life, and they all have something better to do. I know bowling is one of the most popular pastimes in the United States. But wouldn't you rather have success in the most popular pastime? I'm not picking on bowling or any other forms of recreation. We need balance in our lives, and taking time at the bowling alley can also serve you in all sorts of ways: your fitness, your relationship with your friends, your ability to let go, let work go, to relax and to have fun, all good things. But the question is, are you developing yourself? Are you building your dream or only your bosses? Read just one chapter of an information rich, inspiring book every day. Listen to 15 minutes of a life transforming CD or audio download. Take a course or seminar every few weeks or months. And these things easy to do. Are these things easy to do? Sure. But those simple disciplines compounded over time, like a penny double every day for a month, will send you up to the top. Are they easy not to do? No question. And if you don't do them, will you destroy your life today? Of course not. But the simple error in judgment, compounded over time, will pull you down the curve of failure and take away everything you've hoped for and dreamed about forever. Book smarts versus street smarts. 5 frogs. Question is, 5 frogs sat on a lily pad. One decided to jump off. How many were left? 5. All of them are still sitting there. The one frog only decided to jump. The famous Chinese proverb says, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, another wonderful example of traditional slight edge wisdom. But note, the journey starts with a slight step, not with thinking about taking a step. Plenty of people accumulate knowledge but still dwell on the failure curve. It's not only the quantity of knowledge that sets and keeps your course, but also the quality of knowledge. There are different types of knowledge and different avenues of learning. If you want to stay grounded and move ahead at the same time, you need a balance. There are 3 principal kind of learning. The first is learning by study, which includes reading, listening to CDs and audio downloads, attending to classes and seminars. The second time is learning by doing. As passionate as I am about improving yourself by studying with great teachers through great books, CDs, and other media, I also know that all the study in the world wouldn't build your business, establish your health, or create a happy, fulfilling family life. That takes your getting up and doing it. Book smarts is not enough. All true success is built from a foundation of study plus street smarts. Life is not a spectator sport. It's a contact sport. There is no practice session. You've been immersed in it from day one. Life lives in the right here, right now. That's by Emerson, who was an exceptionally well-educated man in the traditional book smart sense, advised, do the thing and you shall have the power. Note that this is not a reversible philosophy. You can't just get the power and then do the thing. Though people do try to do that thing that way, and they spend their entire lives garnering their power and doing nothing. Do the thing and you shall have the power. The only way to have the power is to do the thing, just do it. That's learning by doing. In my marketing business, I'm often asked for success, the key to success. What's the one thing I can do to guarantee my success? My answer is always the same. Be here, actively immersed in the process 1 year from now. That's really the only right answer. It's a slight edge answer. You can't build your dream by what you're doing to do or planning to do or intend to do. You only build your dream by building it. If you aren't doing, you are dying. Life is doing. The rhythm of learning. Confucius says, knowledge without practice is useless. Practice without knowledge is dangerous. I can read a book like a man thinketh, return it to my bookshelf, then come back a year later to read again. Feels like somebody walked into my room while I was sleeping and completely rewrote the book. Why? Because of the learning by doing I've gone through in the interim, my experiences have changed my perspective. And now, when I read a particular passage or point the author makes, I understand it in a way that I could not have possibly seen a year ago. And in that turn, informs my behavior now. When I go to engage in my activity, on the next day, I can apply what I've learned from James Allen in a way that I would not have thought of ever, even 24 hours ago. So, once again, I want to reiterate the fact, my dear co learners, that reading is imperative. It's not even like something which is a possibility. It is, we must read to grow, to evolve. But only reading would never be beneficial. Implementing what we're reading would change our lives. And it doesn't have to be a major paradigm shift. Step by step, slowly let the journey evolve. When you read a book, write about it in your journal. This is what I learned. And to put this into action, my starting steps are so and so and so and so. And then you start doing them. Give yourself accountability. Yeah, it needs a lot of work. It's easier said than done. It needs your time to plan. It needs your time to start doing. So planning is the first step. Writing down is the second step. Because once you just plan the mind has 30 to 40,000 thoughts a day. So obviously it will be all clutter, it will be mayhem. So when you script it down, it gives more sensibility, right? So living a book is very, very, very important. In my marketing business, I'm often asked for the key to success. What's the one thing I can do to guarantee my success? My answer is always the same. Be here, actively immersed in the process. 1 year from now, that's really the only right answer. It's a slight edge answer. You can't build your dream by what you're doing, what you're going to do, or planning to do, or intend to do. You only build your dream by building it. If you aren't doing, you're dying. Life is doing. The rhythm of learning, right? We just read about this actually. Right. Book smarts. We are here in this section just for clarification. Yeah. Book smarts, street smarts, learning by study, learning by doing. Read about it, apply it, see it in action, take that practical experience back to my reading, deepen my understanding, take that deeper understanding back to my activity. It's a never ending cycle. Each aspect of learning feeding the other, like climbing a ladder, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Can you imagine trying to climb a ladder with only your right foot? The two work together. What's more, they only work better together, each amplifying the other. But the truth is, they really cannot work separately, at least not for long. You can't excel based purely on knowledge learned in the study. You can't excel purely through knowledge gleaned through action. The two have to work together. You study and then you do the activity. The activity changes your frame of reference, and now you're in a place where you can learn more. Then you learn more and it gives you more insight into what you experienced in your activity. So now you've approached activity with more insight, and back and forth it goes. This back and forth rhythm is worth noting. It's a rhythm of success. Remember when we talked about baby steps? The learning and doing sense of rhythm is something you learned even before you learned to walk, and it's even more basic. Psychologists have found crawling is one of the most important activities we ever accomplish because it profoundly affects the brain and its capacity to learn. The right hand, left leg, left hand, right leg rhythm of alternation acts upon our nervous systems like the surf upon the coastline, developing it, shaping it, preparing it for all sorts of more sophisticated levels of learning and awareness later in life. You've heard the expression, before you can walk, you have to crawl. There's more profound truth to this than most of us ever realized. That alternating rhythm and your capacity to coordinate the behavior of opposites is a critical slight edge skill. Balancing book smarts and the street smarts is one aspect of that, and so is a daily success strategy that we look at next, course correction. You return again, correct a course correction. John MacDonald says, you return again and again, take the proper course, guided by what? By the picture in mind of the place you're headed for. What's the shortest path between 2 points? A straight line, right? Wrong. While that might be true in theory, it's never true in reality. And reality is where you and I live and where we succeed or we fail. Have you driven on any roads lately that are perfectly straight, even when you're on one of those interstates that seems like a long straight line to forever? Do you hold the steering wheel perfectly still, or do you move it back and forth, constantly correcting the direction the car is headed? The constantly moving of the steering wheel is so familiar, it's second nature and you probably never think about it. But if you decided to hold the wheel rightly in front, you'll be off the road probably in less than a minute. And in case you think that's just a matter of engineering of imperfections in the road surface, the next example may come as a bit of a shock. On its way to the moon, the miracle of modern engineering, that is an Apollo rocket, is actually on course only 2 or 3% of the times. For at least 97% of the time it takes to get from the Earth to the moon, it'll be off course. In a journey of nearly a quarter of a million miles, the vehicle is on track for only 7,500 miles. Or to put it another way, for every half hour the ship is in flight, it is on course for less than 60 seconds. And it gets to the moon. How is that possible? Because modern space travel is a masterful example of the slight edge course connection in action. If this machine, one of the most sophisticated, expensive, and finely calibrated piece of technology you ever devised, was correcting its own off course errors 29 minutes out of the 30. Is it reasonable to expect that you could do better than that? And even if you were able to match the rocket's degree of accuracy, you'd still be perfectly on target, on track, and of course, no more than 10 days per year. For anyone who lacks a grasp of the slight edge, being off course is something to be avoided at all costs. After all, if you're off course, you're failing, right? But those who understand the slight edge embrace Thomas Watson's philosophy about failure. Here is more extended version of what he said. Thomas Watson, Sir, Senior. Would you like me to give you the formula for success? It's quite simple, really. Double your rate of failure. You're thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but it isn't at all. You can be discouraged by failure or you can learn from it. So go ahead and make mistakes. You can learn from it. So go ahead and make mistakes. Make all you can, in fact. Because remember, that's where you'll find success on the other side of failure. Remember, the rocket got here, so can you. Why? Because of continuous course correction. What enabled the rocket to continue to make adjustments that brought back on track to reach its destination. Adjustments were all done by a computerized guidance system, the heart of which was a gyroscope. A gyroscope is a spinning mass mounted in a base that retains the same orientation no matter in which direction the base itself is going. You may have played with the toy gyroscope as a child, the kind you wind up with a string like a top, make it spin, and no matter how you hold it or what you do, it remains upright and as long as spinning around. The force created by that toy gyroscope is so powerful it can balance the tip of your finger or dance upright along a string. The rocket starts from point A, the current position, and heads for point B, the moon. As it travels its few first miles, it gets slightly off course. Now the rocket's gyroscope shows one reading, while the rocket's instruments shows that's actually headed in slightly different direction. The gyroscope remembers is always pointed in the right direction, the direction the ship actually wants to go. The computer processor detects that the rocket's off course and tells it to make an adjustment. If the processor and the rocket were speaking English, the conversation might sound something like this. Rocket, you're 1.27 degrees north, bring it to 1.29. Okay, done. Good. Wow, that's too much. Now you're at 1.30. Move it back to 0.1 degrees south. No problem. I'll do that. Great. No matter. Wait, far too west. Adjust course 0.067 degrees. Got it. Consider it done. Whoops. Too much. Come back 0.012. Right. 0.012. How's that? Little too far north again is back at 1.27, and it goes and it goes, and here to the moon, a constantly occurring series of adjustments turning what is predominantly a string of failures into ultimate success. You have a gyroscope, And it works in much the same way if you allow it to. Your gyroscope is your vision of what you're doing, in other words, your dream. Your processor is a slight edge, a consistent series of tiny, seemingly insignificant actions, easy to do and easy not to do. And in this case, doing them leads you directly to the moon instead of shooting off into the vacuum of outer space. You're hungry, there's a bunch of greasy junk food in a vending machine beckoning you. Your gyroscope is spinning. It's focused on your health. Your processor goes click, 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 whoa, and you choose a salad or a piece of fruit instead. The display rack of books and magazines, you reach towards a copy of People because it has a juicy piece of gossip you just love to read about a movie star you can't stand, but it looks really intriguing anyways. And it's only a few bucks, and you've got some time over lunch, and click, work, click, and instead of you going back to your car for your copy of Smart Women, Finish Rich, or to take a 20-minute walk in the park. You're having a coffee with friends and they start complaining about their work, their bosses, their job, click, click, whir, and you find a way to change the subject because you know that if the talk doesn't go into positive track, with another 60 seconds, you'll find a reason to excuse yourself. Click, click, whir. Knowing the slight edge, you make the adjustments automatically. You make these right choices, the ones that serve you. You do these very simple, seemingly insignificant things that forwarded your progress up the success curve. You read good books, you listen to motivating tapes, you hang around successful people who empower you. You're a 5%er, a winner, a success. Once you know the slight edge, you know that in getting from point A to point B, you'll be off track most of the time. And you know, it's the adjustments, these little seemingly insignificant corrections, direction that have the most power in your life. So let me just glance how many. Okay, this is long chapter. So tomorrow we will read about Kaizen plan, do, review. Until today, have a slight edge. Lots of love.